welcome to XP Studio. I am XP Dev. Let's just turn that music down. Alright, so first off, I've just got to apologise for the other night. The first hour I found out was muted, so that was my mistake. Quick recap of what I went through, basically discussing what I was interested in making for our first game, or first and second game. I had one inspiration first, but decided that that was going to be potentially a little too difficult to jump into right away. So I've had another idea to sort of start off with something a little more simpler. So what we're going to start off with is going to be a space shooter roguelike. So thinking back to the old classic space shooters like Space Invaders, Galaga, Asteroids, but mixed with the current sort of popular genre of roguelites like Vampire Survivors and my personal favorite 20 Minutes Till Dawn. So I'm going to drop down to our main screen there. And this is basically what we started off with, was going through listing out what we wanted to do. So concept, spaceship lost in space. Instead of like where Vampire Survivors, it's just survive as long as you can. 20 Minutes Till Dawn is trying to survive the 20 minutes. I'm thinking maybe start with like a 60-minute timer until the warp drive is charged, but there's ways to reduce the timer. You definitely want to reduce the timer because the longer you're in, it's going to get more difficult. Enemies will come in similar or less numbers to 20 Minutes Till Dawn, but they're going to be able to fire back, so it's going to create a bullet style hell game as well. And then each warp will lead to harder levels or galaxies. The unlocks will be different ships and unlock different systems such as weapon and shield upgrades. And instead of chests that you get in Vampire Survivors or 20 Minutes Till Dawn, perhaps special enemies will drop something that reduces your warp time charge. Different weapon options and upgrades that synergize if chosen correctly, but won't help much if you choose the wrong options. We then did a bit of research about where we're going to go, what we need to do to start with, and pretty much everything was choosing a game engine that's going to suit for the type of game we're making. So then we went through a few options. We looked at all the major options, so Unreal, Unity, decided they weren't going to be very good for 2D and beginner. So we broke down to Godot, GameMaker and Solar 2D, and then after watching some YouTube videos at the end, we decided on GameMaker. So then we also found that essentially the basic steps will be to start the basic mechanics off and breaking everything down. Everything said break everything down into smaller tasks. So write down, okay, even movement, break it down into input and action. So what does the player input, what does the action do? And then basically create a simple prototype, a first level, something that can be played and tested, polish that prototype, and then expand that to a further full game. So it's more simple to create the rest of the game once you've got that prototype, because then it's pretty much copy paste and edit. So today we're going to kick into GameMaker. Now this is obviously brand new software that I've not used before, so we need to get into some tutorials on what we're doing. And one of the things that we looked at in all the videos we looked at as well was to create some very basic games to start with. So replicas of things like Pac-Man, Pong, Asteroid, Breakout, very simple old school games, and learn how the software works. So looking at the GameMaker website, they already have some tutorials on how to create some very basic games. So quite simply, yeah, we're going to start off with the arcade space shooter that looks very much like Asteroid. So I've got this tutorial up here. I'm going to throw that down on the second screen, so we'll zoom into it a bit more so we can see it down there. And then follow along. So I will... Oh, we've got a small video here first. That's pretty much just what we're going to try to achieve. And now this is going to be good because it's potentially going to introduce us into some of the mechanics that we're going to need to recreate for our game. I do want to create essentially like a top-down sort of style. The ship movement is going to be different though. A ship can move forwards and backwards and turn. So we're going to have basically tank style controls in a way, but twin stick shooter as well. So your left stick or your ASD-W on your keyboard will control your movement, pretty much just W and S for forward and backwards and up and down on the joystick. And then your mouse will be like circle around the ship to aim to point at wherever your mouse is pointing. And on your joystick, obviously, whichever direction you're pointing your right joystick. You'll have fire options, you'll have like bomb drops or something you can do, and obviously be able to launch your warp drive once it's charged. So a few simple mechanics, and this may introduce us into some of what we need. So we'll build this game in 3 simple steps. Program the ship to move, make space rocks explode, and then finish the game. So we've already downloaded GameMaker, and we've launched that.
In this video, we are going to make a game like Asteroids in 3 simple steps. We'll start with the ship's movement, we'll work on shooting and destroying rocks, and we'll create a game loop with scoring. So let's begin. Let's open GameMaker, click on New, and select this
is
Space
probably going
Rocks
to be a video
template.
overview of
This
the
will
entire
give
process, but we're going to read through and follow the written instructions instead. So we've opened GameMaker, and we're going to click on New, Game. It's going to be a shooter. Already has as well a link there for if you want to create the shooter as well for the tutorial. Now, we'll call it something else. We'll tie it into our studio name somehow, so we'll put 0 in somewhere. So, let's see. Shuttle 0. We'll just call it that, Shuttle 0. Alright, now we're gonna find our location for our saves. Create a new folder, so we'll call that Shuttle 0. Let's go. Oh, wait a second, I think we missed something there. Alright, let's start again. need to remove that then first. Alright, that was the problem. We didn't need to embed the file. Alright, so new game. Oh, we did select the template. Okay. This gives you the images for this tutorial. Enter the project name. Say Shuttle 0. Alright, so we're now in our project. The asset browser on the right contains all our assets. So over on this side, you now see 4 sprites, which are images you can use in your game. Okay, so sprites. There we go. So we've got sprite player, the ship you'll fly, sprite bullet, which you'll fire from your ship, and 2 rocks, which you'll destroy. The same asset browser, we want to create some objects. An object is how you bring an image to life by programming it to move, shoot, or do anything you need it to. If ship, rocks, and even bullets you fire are created as objects, we'll put these in the objects group in the assets browser, which is currently empty. Okay, so where's the objects group? So right click, create new object. Yeah, object player. Okay. How to edit an object. Your new object has an editor. Here you can change its properties and program it, which we'll do very soon. Every object needs a sprite, otherwise how would you see it? Click where it says no sprite, and from under the sprites group, select sprite player. Okay, so sprite, sprites group, sprite player. Okay. We need some more objects now. Just like you created object player, create 3 more objects. Object bullet, object rock, and object game. Okay. So create the object obj bullet. Sprite bullet. Create object obj rock. Sprite okay, so we'll start, but we can shrink as you shoot it. Okay, and obj game. Okay. These are all the objects you need. Now let's place these inside a level. Each level in GameMaker is a room asset. Look in the asset browser. There's one already there for you. Okay, so rooms. Double click on it, the room editor will open where you'll build your level. Okay. Before doing anything, I want to resize the room to make it 1000 by 1000 square. In the lower left corner of the window, you'll see an inspector window. Yeah, set the width of the room to width and height of the room to 1000. You can use a different size. Okay, well let's actually do a different size. Let's actually make it a widescreen ratio. We're not going to make it full 1920 by 1080, but let's go 1600 by 900. So it's 16:9. So it's going to fit on our widescreen normally. Okay. How to place objects in a room. Look at the left panel in the room editor. There are two layers created by default, instances and backgrounds. Okay, instances and background, yeah. You see that? Instances, this is an instance layer. Your objects go here, just like cereal goes in a bowl. Background, this is the background layer. Change the background color or apply an image. Click on the instances layer to select it. This is where your objects will go. Okay. Well, if we have to apply an image for the background, I've got an idea what we can use for that, but we're doing the instances for now. From the asset browser, drag object player and place it into the room. Your player ship is in the room now as an instance. You can place multiple instances of any object in the room. Do this with the rocks. Drag the object rock in the room multiple times until you have around 6. The stage is set for play. We just need to teach the actors their roles. Okay. Alright, so we've got 6 of them. So how to move the ship. If you run the game now, press F5 or play at the button top of the game will open. But it'll be as still as frozen lake at night. So okay, let's have a look at that. So F5. Yep, it's doing absolutely nothing. Objects are there, your room is there, but nothing is programmed to move or do anything. Let's work on that. How to use events in GameMaker. On pressing the up arrow key, we want to push the player ship forward. In your asset browser, double click on Object Player. Okay. Look at its object editor, specifically the events window. Okay, so events window. Click on Add Event and select Step. Okay, so Step. Alright. You might be asked to choose between GML code and GML visual. Choose GML code if you've done programming before, or GML visual if you're new. This tutorial will cover both options, so you can choose whichever option you prefer. Make your choice and enable Don't Ask Again for this project. Okay, so let's go with the visual to start with. After making your choice above, you'll see the window for the step event open up. An object has many events. Each event has its own unique time when it runs. For example, you brush your teeth in the morning, then you breathe pretty much all day every second. If you were a GameMaker object, you would brush your teeth in the create event and breathe in the step event. That's because the create event is the first event to run for an instance and it only runs once. The step event then runs all the time in every single frame while the instance exists. We're going to program this step event to move the ship as it's a continuous thing that must happen, akin to breathing. How to program an event. Soon I'll show you some things to add into the step event. The way you add them differs in GML code and GML visual. Using visual, search for the relevant actions in the toolbox and drag them into the event area. Okay. Using GML code, simply write your code into the event window. Okay. How to add motions. Okay, so we need to move the ship. In your step event, add the following code or actions. F key down. F key is down or released. Okay, so F key down. Up. So add motion. Movement. Add motion. Where do I drag that to? There, no. There, okay. Okay, so you can only attach actions to green conditional actions. So adding motion in a direction, what direction is that? That direction is image angle of the instance, which is where the ship is facing. The amount of motion we're adding is 0.1. You can change this to make your ship faster or slower. Okay. So run now, press the up arrow key. It's an up. And there's no collision and it goes right off screen. Okay. How to rotate an instance. To move the ship, we're adding motion towards the image angle. The variable stores the angle of the instance's rotation. To rotate the instance, you simply need to change its variable. In the same step event, add this. So if key down right, How do I get it off of there? I want it to attach to that. Okay. Okay. So left, right. Now where was that? Assign variable. Drawing tiles, audio, data structures, cameras. Plus instance variables. Time. It's a view variable. Where is it? There we go, set instance variable. No. Assign variable. Where is it? Assign variable. So we want one of them for both. So it's going to be image angle. Or relative -4 relative. Okay. So F5. Alright, so we've got turning. But still no collision. Oops, and still if we go off screen, we can't. Oh no, it comes back. But it's... It depends on where the map is. Good luck finding it unless you know exactly where you've flown. Okay. Alright, so we're going to make the ship wrap around the room. If it leaves through the top, it comes back through the bottom. In the same step event, add this. So move wrap around room. Movement. Wrap around room. Here we go. Make sure to add it outside of any conditions. Okay. Hold on. What if we put it up here then? No. Okay. Yep, so that's outside of the condition. Tells the ship to wrap around the room but when it's outside. Both horizontal and vertical wrapping are enabled, and the wrap margin is set to 0. The wrap margin controls how far outside the room the instance has to go before it wraps. We're not using it for now, but it will come in handy later. And the ship movement is done. You can now move, turn, and wrap around the room. Okay. So if we try that, and we go forward to the right, we should come out the left. And now we've got infinite wrapping around. Okay, so that's simple. I wouldn't have even known how to do that 5 minutes ago. And I didn't. So yeah, we're achieving something already. I guess we're no longer 0 XP. Okay, one step off the checklist. To the rocks, we're coming. Earlier we created an object bullet. To shoot, we create a new instance of this object at the ship's location. Okay, right. The bullet will move at a fast pace in the same direction as the ship itself. When the bullet is outside the room, we'll destroy it. This prevents a memory leak that would happen if all the bullets you shot continued to exist forever. Because otherwise they'd still be going on to infinite. Okay, in the step event of object player. Okay, so we're already in object player, yeah. Add this. If mouse check button pressed, left mouse button. So if mouse pressed. So where's this one? Mouse and keyboard. Mouse. If mouse pressed. This checks if the left mouse is pressed. Okay, so if mouse, left mouse. Create instance. Sequences. Instance, create instance. Is that picture gonna zoom in? These pictures are not zooming in any further. It's really hard to see them. Open a new tab for a sec. There we go. Alright. So we're going to create object bullet. So it should be in the list. Objects. Object bullet. Yes. So relative to the player. Okay. Layer instances. Target temp. Okay. You hit the left mouse button, it creates an instance of object bullet. Apart from the object to create it, it takes 3 other parameters. X, Y, and layer. The X position where the instance will be created, the Y position where the instance will be created, layer, the room layer where the instance will be created. From the X and Y, we're passing in the X and Y variables of the player. So the bullet is created at the same position. We're setting the layer to instances. You can now shoot things. The thing is, the bullets don't move at all. Yes, let's make sure we can shoot things that don't move. Hey, but we could draw. You could make a game out of that, even. Okay. So the bullet will set its speed once it's created. After that, it will continue to move forever until it's outside the room. Okay, so double click on the object bullet. The events window, add the create event. Add. Wait, hold on, is that the right thing? Oops, yes, add event. Create, that's right, because, okay, so the create is single instance when it first starts, and the step is what it continues to do. And that's what it literally just said, the next thing, so I picked up on that before I read it. The event is the first to run in an instance and only runs once. That's why it's called create, because it runs as soon as the instance is created. In the event, add this. Okay, let's read that, see that properly. So assign variable. Assign variable. So we not want to name that to. Wait. Why is that? Wait. Okay, two. So you can add multiple variables. Okay. Okay, you can add multiple variables at once. So we're going to create speed value 10 and direction value obj player dot image angle. Okay, so that's the angle that the direction the player sprite is pointing. Excuse me. Okay, so we're telling the bullet to move at a speed of 10. That's 10 pixels every frame. Change this to make your bullet go faster or slower. So that's how fast your bullet moves, but where does it move? That's what the direction controls. We're setting it to object player image angle, which means we're pulling the image angle from object player, telling the bullet to move where the player is facing. Okay, so if we test that now. But now they just go on forever, and that's where we'll get a memory leak eventually. Okay. So now they need to be destroyed when they exit the room. Add event, hover over other and select outside room. Okay, what? Event. Add event, other, outside room. Okay, so then we've got tabs to change between the events, so we can double click it there. Yeah, okay. This event runs as soon as the instance has exited the room. Add this here. Destroy instance. Nice simple one. Of course, the object itself continues to exist in the asset browser and new instances can be created. Woohoo, we can now shoot. Doesn't look like the rocks care though. They better run. Okay. So now we can just shoot forever and we shouldn't get a memory leak. So let's just check that and see how much memory it's using. Guess it doesn't say there. Oh, yeah, shuttle 0, GameMaker. Oh, there, I guess that'll be it. So 447.3. And yeah, it's not going up. Doesn't matter how much we shoot. Okay. So we're shooting. Double click on an object rock, add the create event and add this here. So object rock. Create event. So assign variable. Speed. It's going to be 1. Get random number. Where's that? What does that look like? A box. Data structures. It's random. Here we go. So get random number. We want 2 of those. So type decimal. 0 to 360. Target direction 0 to 360, and that's going to change the image angle. Okay. So reload compares the bolt speed of 10, which is expected. Then we're setting the direction to random 360. It says the direction where the rock moves but doesn't rotate the sprite, so we also apply a random number image. Okay. So let's... Rock goes outside the room, it'll be lost and never come back, and this rock still look very still and boring. Okay. In the same object rock object add a step event. Add step. So wrap around room. And wrap around once it's more than 100 pixels outside the room. Okay, so movement. Wrap around room. 100, so it's going to go outside the room for 100 before it warps. Horizontal and vertical. Assign variable. So rock continues to rotate constantly, it just looks more realistic. Okay. Why aren't they spinning? Okay, so I forgot didn't click the relative. What does the relative do? What does the relative checkbox in GameMaker do? The variable's existing value. Let's use expressions created and variables created previously as the value. Okay. So it'll just set it to 1 or it'll... Okay, alright. Enable wrapping for the rock. We've done that. Done that. Okay. How to destroy the rocks. It's about all we've been waiting for. Bullet versus rock. When they collide, we want to destroy both the bullet and the rock. But now we're probably aware that an instance can be destroyed with instance destroy or destroy instance, but that's not all. When a rock is destroyed, it should create a particle effect. If it's a big rock, become a small rock. If it's a small rock, reincarnate as a big rock. So the game never runs out of rocks. When you destroy a small rock, it becomes a big rock. It's placed off screen so it can enter the room again. Okay, so how to collide in GameMaker. When one instant touches another, it's called collision. Let's program the collision between a bullet and a rock. We'll do it from the perspective of the rock, as that's the object that will be affected the most. This means we're working in object rock and not the bullet. So add event collision. Select object bullet. So collision with bullet. This will run when the rock collides with the bullet. Okay, so then we're going to add a destroy instance and apply it to other. Okay. Instance, destroy instance, other. Can we make this wider? Destroy other on other. Okay. Do effect. Particles. Do effect. Explosion. Above objects. Medium. Relative. So what? Get random number. Decimal. 0 to 360. Direction. Okay, so this does 4 things. It destroys the other instance, which is the bullet. GameMaker gives you the other variable in a collision event, so you can modify the instance you collided with. The Gmail visual use the drop-down arrow to assign this action to the other instance so the bullet is destroyed. Okay, so the self is, say, collision, and then with what you're colliding with. Self, and then other is that object. It would have to be set for each. So the rock colliding with the player too, or the player colliding with the rock as well. We'll have to create that. Okay. Creates an explosion effect. It sets the direction to a random value. When the rock eventually becomes a small rock or respawns, it will move in a new direction. Looks like it's going to start doing that now. Okay. Okay, so the bullets are being destroyed. And it gains a random direction. Okay. So they'll need to collide with each other and maybe bounce off each other. Okay. How to use comparison conditions. Looks like we're nearly done here. We'll now program a big rock to change into a small rock and a small rock to respawn. To control the number of rocks in the room, we'll only respawn a rock if there are less than 12 rocks in the room. This will be done using a comparison condition. We want to use conditions to ask questions and do this. Big rock, yes. Become small. No. Less than small rocks. No. Destroy, yes. Respawn. Okay, so in the same collision event, add this. Okay, so we're creating another if variable, variables. so there's the if. So if sprite index is that the name? Okay, it's equal to sprite big rock. Then get sprite. Set sprite to sprite underscore rock small. So else, what's the function called? Instance copy. Oh, because it's going to create another one. Okay, I get that. Change since count. It's a red one. So what? Function. Oh, it's a function call. Instance copy. True. Okay, so it's going to create a second copy of it. So one big rock gets blown up and creates two small rocks. So basically splits up. Alright. If variable. So otherwise, if. Okay, so if this, then that. If otherwise, if this, then that again. Else. Instance number obj rock is less than 12. Set sprite. Change it back to that. Name 0. And then assign a variable x minus 100. It's an x coordinate. So move it 100 to the left. I feel like it should move it even more than that. Okay. Then we need another else off that. Otherwise, destroy instance. Okay. Okay, so the first rock checks if it's big by checking its sprite. If it's big, it's changed into a small rock. The instance is then copied, so we get two small rocks. Second block starts if else, so it only runs if the preceding condition is false, meaning the rock is small. Then checks if there are less than 12 rocks in the room. If that's true, changes the rock into a big rock. It also sets the rock's horizontal position to minus 100, so the rock goes outside the room and can re-enter. So on the x coordinate on the room. So not its x coordinate, because otherwise it would be instance position. Yeah, but it's not instance position, it's just instance, it's just x. Okay, the final block only runs if the preceding condition is false, meaning the rock is small and there are already 12 or more in the room. In that case, it's destroyed. Okay, so if we run that, so now okay, but we've still got no collision on us. They've got no collision on each other. So we don't die. They don't bounce off each other or anything. Okay. Alright, so move and shoot all you want. There's no point in playing unless there's great danger. When your ship runs into a rock, it should explode immediately and the game should restart after 2 seconds. To restart the game after 2 seconds of the player losing, will use alarms. Okay, so go to player object. Add a collision with object rock. Okay, so add collision object rock. Okay, so we're gonna do effect. Okay, so that's the particles and stuff. So a do effect. We want firework above objects, medium, relative. Okay, because yeah, if it's not relative, it's to the room. If it is relative, it's to the object. Okay, and we're going to destroy instance. So destroy instance, and set alarm countdown. Alarm 120. Okay, because there's that frames. And if it's 60 frames a second, it'll be 120 frames. That shouldn't be programmed by frames. That's one thing I've heard about though, because it can, if you unlock your frames, then it's going to go a lot faster. How does that get changed? Okay, so just gonna set an alarm on the game. Wait a second, let's come back to that for a sec. What do we got? We got no objects on the game itself. Is that where we're going to put like health and etc., like lives or something? Okay. So this is doing an effect. That's destroying the ship and setting a 2 second, but it's 120 frames because we're running 60 frames per second. Set alarm for 6 a.m. Go to sleep. Precisely 6 a.m. GameMaker also says alarms. You can turn an alarm after a number of frames. After that number of frames have passed, the event will run. The code above for telling the object to run its first alarm after 120 frames, 2 seconds. Why didn't we create the alarm in the player object? Because we're destroying the player instance. You can't run alarms in an instance that doesn't exist. Okay. And restart the room. So we've got alarm 0. So object game. Add event. Alarm 0. Restart room. Tiles. Data structures, buffers. Files. So that's going to be like levels essentially. So room's a level. Or if you had like, okay, so I imagine if you had something like an old school Zelda where you go to the edge of the screen, each screen is a room. Okay. Alright. I get that. So we're going to restart room then. Simply restart, play again. It's almost done, but object game to work, it has to be in our room. Right now it's not. Open room 1. Select the instances layer from the asset browser, drag object 1 into the room. Object game. Okay. Okay. Since it doesn't have a sprite, it'll appear as a question mark. You can place it anywhere its location doesn't matter, only that it exists. In the game, you can now hit a rock and lose 2 seconds. After that, you can play again. Does the whole thing start again from like the rocks in that starting position though? Alright, so let's destroy. Hold on, it's hard enough to fly into a ship. 1, 2, okay, yep. Right. How to add a score. You have a great playable game now, but how will you show your friends how good you are without a score counter? Create our own variable to store the score. That variable will appear on screen when a rock is destroyed. We'll add 50, increasing the player's score. So open the object. Okay, so yeah, that's what I said. We're gonna do all that like game stuff, how it runs, the score, etc. in there. So create this event, so assign variable. So assign variable. Wait, hold on, and add the create event. A create. Oops. Yes. Add create event. Alright. So assign variable points. Alright. Set its value to 0. Let's draw it to the HUD. Add the draw GUI event to the object game object. Object game object. Add event. What? At the draw GUI event. Other. Synchronous. Oh, draw. Draw GUI. Draw value. Drawing. Draw value. Okay, so points. A position X, Y, because that's on the room. Drawing the points value at 1010. See if you're on the game stuck at 0 though. Make it increase when you destroy a rock. So open the rock object. And we've got a collision with the bullet. Okay, so outside of any conditions, add a signed variable. How do I get this out of the conditions? How do we get it out of the condition? Let's put it above that. Okay, fine, that's okay. Object.game points. abj dot underscore game dot points. Value 50. Trying to modify it in the object rock, so we have to address the owner of the variable first. That's why we rename that. Run the game and see it go up. Okay, but I want to do one thing else. I want to add something else to it. It didn't do this. I'm going to add it though. So if I go to object player and collision with object rock, so let's add a variable there as well. So obj game dot points, and let's say minus 100. Yeah, was that relative on that one before? It was, so I need to go back and fix that too. So object rock, that's relative, yeah, to the points. Yep. Alright, so F5. Yeah, points are going up. And if I crash, okay, so it's just start. Okay, so never mind that anyway. That's why, because it starts you from 0 score when you die. But that would be okay where you'd have lives, you'd have another variable for lives. You'd set that and then create that. How would we export that? Next, you've got plenty of choices. Add mods to use Rock's game, create an adventure game in 30 minutes. So we're going to do that tutorial next, but we're going to go take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll come back with more. So we'll see you soon in 10 minutes. Okay, and welcome back to Zero XP Studio. I'm Zero XP Dev. We've just made this asteroid clone. So we can move around, we can shoot the big rocks, they'll explode into little rocks. And then if we crash, we die. When we shoot, we get score when we hit them. And yeah, so we've got pretty much a high score asteroid replica. And we're learning some basics, and we've pretty much understood everything that we've learned. So we're going to move on to the next tutorial, which is how to mod space rocks. So we're going to add menu buttons, sound effects, and power-ups. So here we go. This is what we need to start advancing it a little more and start knowing what we need to do to actually make games. By the looks of it, this one may be video only. Okay. So let's grab these downloads first and we'll see if we can try and keep up in time with the videos. Mind you, that make a game in 15 minutes took us an hour, so good luck for that. We might have to turn the speed down on the playback. Let's see how we go though. Alright, so where did we download those to? Let's get those unzipped so we're all ready to work. Delete those. Oh, I hate when zip files do that. Okay. In a new window. We want to pull each of those out. Okay. So we can delete those folders. Alright. We're ready to go.
So I have this game with just one room. You open it and it takes you directly into the game without a menu. So in this video we're going to add that main menu where you can hit play or quit. We're also going to add a help button where you can click to see the controls. First of all, we need a sprite for the button. So here I have a blank button sprite and we are going to draw the text on it in the game. If you want this same sprite, you can download it from the description. Now make sure that you set the origin for this to middle center because
Okay, we're already way more than what we know.
first of all we need a sprite for the button. So here I have
Okay. So sprites. Create sprite. Okay, so go away. Right. Import. Battle 0. So menu sprite. Right. Come on, we're gonna find this somewhere. It's gotta be here. At existing. Okay, what are we doing wrong? Okay, I'm really struggling to find how I import this. Drag and drop. Really? Package? Import local package. Ah, okay. Oh, pardon me. Okay.
We have a blank button sprite and we are going to draw the text on it in the game. If you want this same sprite, you can download it from the description. Now make sure that you set the origin for this to middle center because we want to draw the text on it at its center. Now let's set up all the rooms we need. The one I have here is for the main game, so I'll rename this to rm_game. And then for the menu room, I'll just duplicate this so we get the same size and the same settings. And I'll call this rm_menu.
Sorry, just a moment. Apologies for that. Okay, so we've got the duplicate room, named it menu.
Now obviously you want the menu to open when you start the game, but right now the game room is set as the first room to open. If you look here, that's what this icon indicates. So I'll click on this icon, and in this list I'll drag RM menu above RM game, and now you can see that the menu room will open when you start the game. Let's open this menu room now. Because we duplicated the game room, this already has the player and the rocks, which we don't need. So I'm going to delete all this, and also make sure you delete this instance which doesn't have a sprites, because these are quite easy to miss. The room is empty now, so let's go and create some buttons, and we'll come back to this later to put those buttons here. Now before we go and make the buttons, it's a good idea to make a custom font that we can use to draw the text on our buttons. So in the asset browser here, I'm going to create a new font asset, and I'll name this fnt_menu. In the editor, I'll select a font I like. There are many good fonts you can custom font that we can use to draw the text on our buttons. So in the asset browser here, I'm going to create a new font asset, and I'll name this fnt_menu. In the editor, I'll select a font I like. There are many good fonts you can download from the internet. I'll set the size to 40, which is quite big and fitting for our buttons. And I'll also turn off anti-aliasing because my font looks better that way. So that's the font done. So let's go and create the main button object.
Okay, so let's find a font that we like. Nothing that really looks good. That looks alright. The upheaval. Let's go with that. Okay.
So here I'll create a new object, and there are many good fonts you can download from the internet. I'll set the size to 40, which is quite big and fitting for our buttons. And I'll also turn off anti-aliasing because my font looks better that way.
What's the anti-aliasing? Yep. Okay.
So that's the font done. So let's go and create the main button object. So here I'll create a new object and call this obj button parent. This is the parent or base object for all buttons. and this is going to handle how we interact with buttons and how we draw them. Then we are going to create child objects from this and tell each child button what it's supposed to do. Now this object doesn't need a sprite because it doesn't appear in the game itself, but what it does need is a variable to store the text that appears on the button. So I'll open the variables window and here create a new variable called button_text. This will be a string and I'll set the value to be empty and we'll set it in each child object separately. Now for interacting with this button, we want to check if the user has clicked on it with their left mouse button. So for that, I'm going to add a new event and this will be the left pressed event under mouse. I'll leave this empty. This button, we want to store the text that appears on the button. So I'll open the variables window and here create a new variable called button and we'll set it in each child object separately. Now for interacting with this button, we want to check if the user has clicked on it with their left mouse button. So for that, I'm going to add a new event and this will be the left pressed event.
Okay, so mouse.
Under mouse. For that, I'm going to add a new event and this will be the left pressed event under
Left press.
mouse. I'll leave this empty here and we'll fill it in the child objects. Now the only other thing we need in the parent is to draw the button and the text on it. So for that, let's add the draw event. And inside this event, first of all, let's make sure that the button itself is drawn by using draw self. Now we're going to draw the text, but before we do that, we want to set the alignment and the font that we want to use for it. So I'll add this to set the font to FNT menu, which we just created. And then I'll add this to set the text alignment to center and middle. So the text, and then I'll add this to set the text alignment to center and middle. So the text draws like this instead of drawing like this, which is the default behavior. And now I'll add this to draw the button text variable. I'll draw it at the position of the button itself. Now the last thing to do in this event is to reset the alignments to their default values. Whenever you change any draw property, whether it's the color, alpha, or alignment, you want to reset it to its default values after you're done drawing. Otherwise, your changed values might interfere with something else that you're drawing later on. I am going to leave the font as it is, but if you do have a default font that you want to use, then you can reset it to that at the end of this event. So we are done with the parent and we can start making the child objects now. I'll make an object for the play button first. So this will be obj button play. I'll assign the button sprite to it. Now this should be a child of the button parent. So I'll open the parents window and click here to set the parent to obj button parent. With that set, in the events list I can see the events that I made in the parent, and if I open the variables window I also see the variables from the parent. So let's edit this button text variable and write play here, so this button says play, and when you click on it, it should take you into the game room. So to program that, we already have a left pressed event here. We don't want to replace this event, but we want to add on to it, so anything in the parents event runs before this event runs in the child object. So for that, right click on it and select inherit event. And now in the event, let's quickly add this to change the room to RM game. game. And with this, the play button is finished. So let's go ahead and make the help and quit buttons. For the next button, I'll just duplicate the play button object so we get the same sprite and parent. And I'll name this obj button help. I'll open its variables and change the text here to help. I'll leave its event as it is for now, and we'll program this after we've made the quit button. So for that, I'll go and duplicate this object and name this obj button for now, and we'll program this after we've made the quit button. So for that, and I'll name this obj button help. I'll open its variables and change the text here to help. I'll leave its event as it is for now, and we'll program this after we've made the quit button. So for that, I'll go and duplicate this object and name this obj button quit. In the variables again, I'll set this to quit. And now let's tell this button to quit the game when we click on it. So for that, I'll open its left pressed event. I'll remove this from here, and instead I'll add this simple call to end the game. That's all the 3 buttons finished, so let's go and put them in the left pressed event. I'll remove this from here, and instead I'll add this simple call to end the game. That's all the 3 buttons finished, so let's go and put them in the menu room. So I'll open that room, make sure the instances layer is selected, and then place our 3 buttons here one by one. So that's play, help, and quit. Go ahead and run the game, and you can now quit the game, and you can also play it. So that's the basic buttons done. Let's go and quickly work on the help button now. Also stick around till the end of the video for the bonus part where I'm going to animate the buttons. Now for displaying the controls, I'm going to create a new object. I'll call it obj_controls. And in this object, I'll add the draw event. Now before drawing the controls, I'll add this.
Correct. Destroy instance. Get rid of that. Okay, so that in game. Excuse me. Alright, so those buttons
So
work.
that's the basic buttons done. Let's go and quickly work on the help button now. Also stick around till the end of the video for the bonus part where I'm going to animate the buttons. Now for displaying the controls, I'm going to create a new object. I'll call it obj_controls. And in this object,
Object control.
I'll add the draw event. Now before drawing the controls, I'll add this to set the alignment to center middle. And then let's draw this string of text. So I'm drawing a string here, but in the middle you may have noticed something new. These two characters, backslash and n, it's a combination that basically means a new line. It's like pressing
Okay.
enter on your keyboard when you're writing an email. And so in the game, you will see these as two separate lines. Now after we've drawn the text, let's reset the alignment as we should always do. And with this simple object is done. All we need to do now is to make it so when you click on the help button, this object appears. And if it already exists, then it disappears. So the help button itself sort of behaves like a toggle. Let's go into obj button help and open the left pressed event. I'll remove this call we already have from duplicating another object, and instead let's do this. First of all, we're gonna check if an instance of obj controls already exists in the room, and if it does, then we want to destroy it. So for that we add this. If you're using GML visual, then make sure you apply this destroy instance action to the obj controls object. Now after this, let's add an else. This will run if the previous condition is false, meaning that obj controls doesn't exist in the room, and that in turn means that we need to create it. So in that case, I'll call this to create an instance of obj controls. I'll create it in the instances layer and at this position. So horizontally it's in the center of the room, and vertically it's 100 pixels above the bottom edge of the room. And that should do it. So let's run the game. Click on the help button, the controls appear, you click condition is false, meaning that obj controls doesn't exist in the room, and that in turn means that we need to create it. So in that case, I'll call this to create an instance of obj controls. I'll create it in the instances layer and at this position. So horizontally it's in the center of the room, and vertically it's 100 pixels above the bottom edge of the room. And
Something's wrong there.
That should do it. So let's run the game in that case. I'll call this. To create an instance of obj controls.
Okay, that was the problem. Okay, I wanted a new control in there. Go to the controls now. Okay, so let's change this. So forwards W, backwards S. Turn left A. Right, and then button help. Let's just change that to 150. Yeah, that's better. So that's still centered. Forwards W, backwards S, turn left A, turn right D, left click to shoot. And now we can move backwards as well. Slow down. Alright. So we've just improved the controls of the game. And it's going to be similar to the controls for mine, but we don't want it to accelerate like that, because that gains just a constant speed. You'd have to do it on release, it slows down. Okay. See, there we go. We're still learning beyond the tutorial here now by just playing. So, where's the keys? So copy that, key released, copy, paste. Wait, no, leave that one there. Copy that, paste. Leave that one there. Copy that. Paste. Shit. Okay, undo. Yep, okay. Or have I just screwed it up? I still got that constant motion. Speed on that. Only upon release once. That's alright. So let's delete that. Delete that because that's not doing anything then.
Action to the obj controls object. Now after this, let's add an else. This will run if the previous condition is false, meaning that obj controls doesn't exist in the room, and that in turn means that click on. Finally, it's time for the bonus step. You can make your buttons feel much better with some basic animation. So if you go into your button parent object and add the mouse enter event, here set its alpha to something below 1 to make it transparent, and then in the mouse leave event, set its alpha back to 1, you get this basic effect where the button becomes transparent when you hover over it and it feels much better. Adding a basic click effect is also simple. You just open the left pressed event in the button becomes transparent in the mouse. Here set it feel much better with some basic animation. So if you go into your button parent object and add the mouse enter event, here set its alpha to something below 1 to make it transparent, and then in the mouse leave event, set its alpha back to 1, you get this basic effect where the button becomes transparent when you hover over it and it feels much better. Adding a basic click effect is also simple. You just open the left pressed event in the button parent, you change its position slightly, and then set an alarm. Much better. Mouse leave event button. You just open the left pressed event in the button parent, you change its position slightly, and then set an alarm. And then in that alarm event, you reset its position to where it's on the left pressed event in the button parent. You change its position slightly and then set an alarm. And then in that alarm event, so I have this game with just one and then set an alarm. And then in that alarm event, you reset it. Adding a basic click effect is also simple. Feels much. Set its alpha back to 1. You get this basic effect where the button becomes transparent when you change its position slightly and then set an alarm. And then in that alarm event, you reset its position to where it started. And this gives you a nice click effect to go with a fitting sound effect. Now a small problem is that you don't see this effect for the play button because when you click on it, the room changes immediately, so you don't get to see the button move. A solution for this is instead of using the left pressed event to change the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game, you click on it, you see the button move, and then the room changes. So you don't. This gives you a nice click effect to go with a fitting sound effect. Now a small problem is that you don't see this effect for the play button because when you click on it, the room changes immediately, so you don't get to see the button move. A solution for this is instead of using the left pressed event to change the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game, you click on it, you see the button move, and then the room changes. Get to see the button move the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game, you click on that alarm event, you reset its position to where it started, and this gives you a nice click effect to go with a fitting sound effect. Now a small problem is that you don't see this effect for the play button because when you click on it, the room changes immediately, so you don't get to see the button move. A solution for this is instead of using the left pressed event to change the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game, you click on it, you see the button move. A solution for this is instead of using the left pressed event to change the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game,
Oh, I've got some raiders. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zero XP Studio. I'm Zero XP Dev. We're developing games from Zero XP, so we're at the moment just learning GameMaker and working on one of their tutorials, creating their Asteroids remake. We've pretty much done the game and we're just finalizing the final buttons and stuff. So we'll show you what we've got. So we've got buttons that hover over and highlight, and then as we click on help it'll show you the controls. When we go into play, whoops, I have stuffed something up, and that's the point of 0xp. Okay, so what have we got? So we're calling that event, going to room game, parent button, alarm 1, jump to start. Yeah, where is the alarm? Set alarm countdown 1. Alarm 1. So it's 10 frames. Comes to start. Oh, we need to put the go to room here. So RM game. Now go back to, where is it? Play. Call parent event. Delete that. So now we should. No, we've still broken it. What have we done wrong?
To where it started, and this gives you a nice click effect to go with a fitting sound effect. Now a small problem is that you don't see this effect for the play button, because when you click on it, the room changes immediately, so you don't get to see the button move. A solution for this is, instead of using the left pressed event to change the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game, you click on it, you see the button move, and then the
Okay, so we have that in the right spot. So we need to remove that back from the, oops, no, not disable, delete. Play. Is it because we got rid of that? Event. Keep the go to room there too. Let's see if that fixes the problem we just created. I didn't see if that still pressed the button. It's too quick. Hold on, let's change that. Alarm, left press, here we go. So countdown, let's make it 60 frames, so that's 1 second. No. Okay, it's still doing just straight on the left press. Left press sets the alarm. Alarm moves it back. But also, so play button, alarm, call parent event, and go to game. What is the problem?
To go with a fitting sound effect.
Any ideas?
Now a small problem is that you don't see this effect for the play button, because when you click on it, the room changes immediately, so you don't get to see the button move. A solution for this is, instead of using the left pressed event to change the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game, you click on it.
Do we want specifically alarm 0? No, because it's calling alarm 1 from, well, because we've got that. Does it need to be the same alarm that the game runs on? So countdown 0. And that event, alarm 0. Okay, so alarm 1, let's jump to start. We can't just drag that up there. Delete that event, yes. Jump to start. Right. Delete event. Do we override? Am I clicking the wrong thing?
See the button move. A solution for this is, instead of using the left pressed event to change the room, you instead inherit the alarm 0 event and change the room here. And then in the game, you click on it, you see the button move, and then the room changes. And that
It's not doing that. Go to room. Room underscore game. Okay, did we see that move? The button's not moving. It's going straight in because it's doing it on left press. What does left press do here? Moves the button, sets countdown. Press that on the help button. Yes, that's too long. Let's go 30, half a second. It's plenty of time for us to see it. So we're definitely seeing it move. So alarm 0, jump to start. So that waits and moves it back. Play button. So it does call parent event and then go to room. Left press. Let's just disable that. Wait, hold on, what's its left press? So, no, so it needs that. Enable. Let's disable the go to room there. Because it's calling the parent event to there. Left press sets the alarm. Alarm countdown. Now, upon alarm down. It calls that and then goes to room. Aha! We fixed it! So that was not in the tutorial. He just goes straight to adding it. So now we can shoot, we die, we score, and we get kicked back to the menu. The help button works. We can go play again. Okay. And quit button works. Hold on a second, did that give us a chance to see? No, it just quit straight out. So let's add the same to the quit button. So instead of that, let's disable that. So what do we do here? Events. Play left first. Wait, so what did we? Yeah, exit game. Just calling the left press button. And then that's just going to do the alarm. So then we call for that alarm. And then we find exit game. So now we should see the button move before it quits. There we go. Alright, so that's all that done. We're just going to take another quick 10-minute break. Apologies for those who've just joined the chat. But we'll be back in 10 minutes and then we'll continue with adding sound and power-ups. We'll be back shortly.
Oh yes, the sleeping pills.
Holding me down. Holding me, holding me down.
Okay, welcome back to Zero XP Studio. I'm Zero XP Dev. So we've got a working asteroid clone. We can play, we can shit our asteroids, we can die, we get kicked back to the main menu. We got a score counter. I'm pretty crap at asteroids, to be honest. I've never really played it that much. I mean, if I take my time, I'd probably do it, but... Anyway, we need to move on to adding some sounds and music, and adding some power-ups.
To play sounds in GameMaker, you actually don't need to do a lot. You just add your sound file to your project and then ask GameMaker nicely to play that sound when something happens. So the bullet hits a rock, bam, sound. The player hits a rock, bam, sound. I hit a rock, I wouldn't do that, that's not nice. So I made this game in another tutorial, and in this video we're going to add music and sound effects to it. I have this folder with all of my sounds, so I'll select these files and drag them into GameMaker.
Okay, so let's do that first. Whoops, we're zooming on the wrong thing. Okay, so we've got our files are here. Not sure why. Okay, so they're like that. Alright, so they've gone in as objects. No, we don't want them as objects. Delete. So we got to specifically drag them under sounds. Okay. Alright, so there they are up under sounds now.
Inside the sounds group, they've now become sound assets in the project. So I'll go ahead and rename all of them so they are all consistent, starting with snd underscore. And now let's figure out how to get the music playing.
Okay, so we need to rename them. We got shortcut F2. Let's copy that to make this even faster. Okay.
In my project, I have an object called obj_game, which I've put in the game room. This handles all the things in the background, so it's a good place to play the game's music as well. Let's go and first add the room start event in this object. This event runs when the room starts, so it's a good place to play the music. So in this, events, let's go and add this. So it's going to play the... Let's go and first add the room start event in this object. This event runs when the room starts, so it's a good place to play the music. So in this event, let's go and add this. So it's going to play the S&D music sound asset. I'll set this to true to enable looping, which means when the music ends, it's going to repeat, and so you basically hear it forever until the end of the universe, until you manually stop it. To stop it, let's add the room end event, which runs when the room ends, and here, let's add this. This is going to stop the S&D music sound asset. So logically, our music track starts playing when the room starts, and it stops when the room ends. So this means if you have more rooms before this one or after this one, this track won't spill into the other rooms and it will stay in this one room. If you run the game, you will hear it play and you can bob to it for 6 hours before you realize it's too late and you need to sleep. So now it's time for the sound effects. First of all, let's play a sound effect when the player shoots. So for that, let's go into OBJ player. Here I have a step event which has this condition. This checks if the left mouse button is pressed, and if it is pressed, it creates a bullet. So this is where we want to play the shooting sound effect. For that, I'll add this under the same condition. This will play S&D shoot, and because this is a sound effect, you don't want it to loop. If you run the game, you can now hear the shooting sound effect. So it's great, but it's boring. You're hearing the exact same sound every single time, and it becomes a little tiring. So we're going to make it more interesting by changing its pitch every time it plays. So back where I played the sound, this is the pitch parameter that we want to adjust. To get that in GML code, you first want to enter the gain and offset parameters, which are optional. So just enter their default values if you don't want to change them. And now you can change the pitch. I'll set the pitch to a random number in a range using this function, and that range will be 0.8 to 1.2. So every time the shoot sound effect plays, its pitch will be random between these numbers, and 1 is the default pitch, so it can be higher or lower than that. Run the game and you will hear it now. It'll sound a bit different each time it plays. Now we have 2 sound effects remaining. For the player losing, that's in this collision event with the rock. In this event, I'll play the losing sound. Effect, again with looping disabled. And now for the rock being destroyed, let's open obj rock and open its collision event with the obj bullet. When this collision event happens, the rock is destroyed and we want to play a sound here. So in the event, I'll add this. To play the rock destroy sound. And here also you can use a random pitch to make it sound more interesting. So run the game and now we have a complete audio experience with music and sound effects. If you found this useful, check out this other tutorial for some cool tips and tricks.
Okay, so we should have sound effects now. Nice. Alright. So now to add some power-ups.
In this video, we're going to add power-ups to our arcade shooter game. We made this game in another tutorial, so you can go and check that out, or you can download its finished project from the description. So let's open up that project, and here we are going to add two power-ups. One which will give you a spread shot ability so you can fire extra bullets, and one that will make you invincible. We need sprites for these power-ups, which I have in this asset package.
Okay. So import local package. Power-ups. Did we already import these? We did.
So I'll drag it into GameMaker, hit yes, then add all, and then import. You can download this file from the description. Let's make the spread shot power up first. We need an object for that, so let's make an object here. I'll call this obj power up. Spread, and let's give this object the spread power up.
Okay, so you can just drag and drop the sprites.
Right. Now this is the power up that the player can collect, and I'm gonna make it so that when it spawns, it starts moving towards the center of the room. So for that, let's go and add the create event. And for coding these objects, you can use either GML Visual or code. This tutorial will show you both. Now in the events, let's first of all set the speed of the power up to 1, so it moves but slowly. And then let's set its direction to point towards the center of the room. So we get the center of the room simply by dividing the width and height of the room to expand this system. Now to allow the things that no power up, you're gonna see no power up is active player, and here add the here manually, now continue existing, and
Width. Divided by 2.
that may cause memory leaks. So as soon as it goes outside the room, we want to destroy it. For that, let's go and add the other outside room event, and here just destroy the instance. Height of the room by 2. That's simple enough, but if the power up goes outside the room, say if the player doesn't collect it, then it's gonna continue existing, and that may cause memory leaks. So as soon as it goes outside the room, we want to destroy it. For that, let's go and add the other outside room event, and here just destroy the instance. This object is done, so for now let's go into the game room and place the power up here manually. Later in the video, we are gonna work on spawning this automatically. So if you To run the game, you're gonna see the power up is there and it moves towards the center of the room, but you can't collect it yet, so let's work on that. Let's go into obj player and here at the create event, we want to make a variable that can tell us whether a power up is active, and in that case, which power up is active. So we're gonna make a variable simply called power up, and by default it will be set to 0. So whether a power up is active. And in that case, which power up is active. So we're gonna make a variable simply called power up. The create event, we want to make a variable that can tell us whether a power up is active, and in that case, which power up is active. So we're gonna make a variable simply called power up, and by default it will be set to 0. So the way I'm gonna make it work is that if this is 0, it means that no power up is active. If this is 1, it means that the spread power up is active. And if it's 2, it means that the ghost power up is active. This way, after this tutorial is over, you can go ahead and add power ups 3 and 4 and so on and continue to expand this system. Now to allow the player to collect this power up, let's go ahead and add a collision event with that power up object. So when the player collides with this power up, we want to activate that power up, then set an alarm for that power up to be deactivated after 10 seconds and destroy the power up instance. So to achieve all that in this event, first of all, let's change the power up variable to 1. After that, let's set the alarm 0 event to 10 into 60 frames. So because there are 60 frames in 1 second, this means we are telling the alarm 0 event to run after 10 seconds. Then let's also set the ship's color to yellow to indicate that the power up is active. And finally, let's destroy the other instance, which is the power up. If you're using GML, visual, then make sure you click on the arrow on your destroy instance action and you select other. So that's how it's gonna destroy the other instance. If you don't do this, then it's just gonna destroy the player itself. With this done, let's go and add the alarm 0 event where the power up will be deactivated. So here we just want to set the power up variable to 0, then set the ship's color to white, and then its alpha or transparency. Destroy instance action and you select other because there are 60. Then set the ship. While this power up, make sure you click on the arrow on your destroy instance action and you select other. So that's alpha because we will. So let's make you to collect the power up, and after 10 seconds it will be deactivated. But while that power up is active, it doesn't do anything special right now. So let's make that work. While this power up is active, we should be able to shoot extra bullets. So let's go to that part of the code where we shoot. This is found in the step event. Here we have a condition where we check if the left mouse button is pressed, and then we create a bullet instance. In the same pass, we're gonna check if our first power-up is active, and in that case, we are just gonna create some extra bullets. In the same block, let's go and add a condition to check if power-up is equal to 1. If it is, then we are gonna create a new instance. So this will be an instance of obj bullets. We'll make it at the ship's location. It'll be in the instances layer. And after making the instance, we're gonna store its reference in a new local variable that's simply called bullet. So through this reference that we are storing in a variable, we want to modify the direction of the new bullet that we have created. So just after this, I'm gonna shift its direction by 10 degrees, so it goes off in a slightly different direction. And then we just want another bullet going in the other direction. So let's make a new instance for that, and we're gonna store its reference in the same variable. And then in the same manner, we're gonna shift its direction, but by minus 10 degrees. So run the game, collect the power-up, new instance, the new bullet that we have created. So just after this, I'm gonna increase. So run the direction. So let's make a direction. So let's make a new instance for that, and we're gonna store its reference in the same variable. And then in the same manner, we're gonna shift its direction, but by minus 10 degrees. So run the game, collect the power up, and you'll have the spread shot ability. With that, our first power up is done, but it's not spawning automatically. We had to place it in the room ourselves. So we're gonna make it so a power up spawns once every 20 seconds, but it only spawns when you destroy a rock. So for counting down those seconds, let's go into obj game, and here open the create event. We're gonna make a new variable called powerup_time, which is gonna count how many seconds are remaining for a power up to spawn. We're gonna set this variable to 10, so the first power up spawns 10 seconds after the game begins. To count it down every frame, let's go and add the step event. Here we're gonna modify the same variable that we just made, and we're gonna reduce it by the delta time value divided by 1 million. So delta time is the amount of time that has passed between the previous frame of the game and the current frame, but it's in microseconds, so we need to convert that into seconds by dividing it by 1 million. So by doing it this way, this variable is gonna go down by 1 every 1 second. So in 10 seconds, it'll become 0 and then it'll go negative. So once this variable is negative, that's our signal for spawning a power up. For that, let's go into obj rock, because we want to spawn a power up when a rock is destroyed. And that happens in the collision that we just made, and we're gonna reduce it by the delta time value divided by 1 million. So delta time is the amount of time that has passed between the previous frame of the game and the current frame, but it's in microseconds, so we need to convert that into seconds by dividing it by 1 million. So by doing it this way, this variable is gonna go down by 1 every 1 second. So in 10 seconds, it'll become 0 and then it'll go negative. So once this variable is negative, that's our signal for spawning a power up. For that, let's go into obj rock, because we want to spawn a power up when a rock is destroyed. And that happens in the collision event with obj bullets because of course bullets destroy rocks. So at the top of this event, let's add this. We're gonna check if the power up go into obj rock because 0 and then it'll go negative. So once this variable is negative, that's our signal for spawning a power up. For that, let's go into obj rock because we want to spawn a power up when a rock is destroyed, and that happens in the collision event with obj bullets because of course bullets destroy rocks. So at the top of this event, let's add this. We're gonna check if the power up time variable, which is from obj game, is less than 0. If it is, we want to spawn up time variable, which is from obj game, is less than 0. If it is, we want to spawn a power up. So first of all, we're gonna run the choose function so that it chooses a random power up from the multiple power-up objects that you can have. Of course, at the moment we only have one power-up, so that's all we're gonna mention here. And the power-up object that is selected is gonna be stored in the obj variable. So we then use that variable to create a new instance from it. We make this instance at the rock's position in the instances layer. So this will spawn the power-up. And after that, we should reset the power up timer so that the next power up can spawn 20 seconds after this. So we're gonna set the obj_game.powerup_time variable to 20. Now before you test this, go into the game room and make sure you delete the power up that you manually placed there, and then run the game, keep shooting at rocks, and in 10 seconds you will get your new power up.
We did it wrong.
Selected is going to be stored in the obj variable. So we then use that variable to create a new instance from it. We make this instance at the rock's position in the instances layer. So this will spawn the power. Up and 1 million. So by doing it this way, this variable is gonna go 0 for on a power into seconds, but as on a power with obj. We're gonna check if the power up time variable, which is from obj game, is less than 0. If it is, we want to spawn a power up. So first of all, we're gonna run the choose function so that it chooses a random power up from the multiple power-up objects that you can have. Of course, at the moment we only have one power-up, so that's all we're gonna mention here. And the power-up object that is selected is gonna be stored in the obj variable. So we then use that variable to create a new instance from it. We make this instance at the rocks position in the instances layer. So this will spawn the power up. And after that, we should reset the power up timer so that the next power up can spawn 20 seconds after this. So we're gonna set the objgame.powerup_time variable to 20. Now before you test this, go into the game room and make sure you delete the power up that you manually placed there. And then run the game, keep shooting at rocks, and in 10 seconds,
When the downtown lights start to come out at night, we go insane, and when night arrives, I start
have a condition where we check if the left mouse button is pressed, and then we create a bullet instance. In the same pass, we're gonna check if our first power up is active, and in that case, we're just gonna create some extra bullets. In the same block, let's go and add a condition to check if power up is equal to 1. If it is, then we are gonna create a new instance. So this will be an instance of obj bullets. We'll make it at the ship's location. It'll be in the instances layer, and after making the instance, we're gonna store its reference in a slide game variable. First power up is so for counting down those seconds, let's go into obj game and here open the create event. We're gonna make a new variable called powerup_time, which is gonna count how many seconds are remaining for a power up to spawn. We're gonna set this variable to 10, so the first power up spawns 10 seconds after the game begins. To count it down every frame, let's go and add the step event. Here we're gonna modify the same variable that we just made, and we're gonna reduce it by the delta time value divided by 1 million. So delta time is the amount of time that has passed between the previous frame of the game and the current frame, but it's in microseconds, so we need to convert that into seconds by dividing it by 1 million. So by doing it this way, this variable is gonna go down by 1 every 1 second. So in 10 seconds, it'll become 0 and then it'll go negative. So once this variable is negative, that's our signal for spawning a power up. For that, let's go into obj rock because we want to spawn a power up when a rock is destroyed. And that happens in the collision event with obj bullets because of course bullets destroy rocks. So at the top of this event, let's add this. We're gonna check if the power up time variable, which is from obj game, is
Wow, so a dot is enough to screw up code and crash the entire game. Okay, so I need to survive 60. 10 seconds. Alright, so there's... that's all working.
Less than 0. If it is, we want to spawn a power up. So first of all, we're gonna run we should keep shooting at before your current do in a draw event is use the draw those. Now before you test this, go into the game room and make sure you delete the power up that you manually placed there, and then run the game. Of course, at the moment we only have one power up, so that's all we're gonna mention here, and the power here. So this will spawn the power up, and after that we variable 220 manually placed there. Keep shooting. How many seconds are remaining above the play and add the draw event. So for that, let's go into the obj player object and add the draw event. Now the first thing you should do in a draw event is use the draw self function so that the instance itself is drawn. In this case, we do want the player ship to be drawn, so we're gonna use that. Then let's check if the alarm 0 event is active by checking if the alarm value is greater than 0. So we are checking the alarm because the alarm is what disables the power up. So we are just gonna check whether that alarm is active, and then we are just gonna draw that alarm's value to the screen so we can see how much time is remaining. Before we draw the value, let's add this to change the horizontal alignment of the text that we are about to draw to center so that it's centered above the player ship. And then let's use this function to draw the alarm value to the screen. So the value that we are drawing is the alarm value divided by 60. And then rounded. But what we want to show to the player is seconds. So we are dividing the alarm value by 60 to convert it from frames into seconds. And then we are rounding it because we don't want to display a decimal value. We want to show a simple whole number. We are drawing this text just at the ship's location but 60 pixels above it. Then at the end, make sure you reset the horizontal alignment back to left. Run the game, collects a power up, and you're gonna see the number of seconds that are remaining before that power up runs out. The font that you see on the text for those seconds will depend on what font you've already used in the game. So in my project, I used this font in the main menu that we made in another tutorial. And that's why this is the font I see. You may see something different. Let's add the second power up now, which is a ghost power up that makes you invincible. We already have a sprite for this, so we need to make an object. For the object, I'm just gonna go to the spread power up object that we made in this video. And let's right click on that and duplicate it. Let's change its name to obj power up ghost and also change its sprite to the ghost power up sprite. That's all we need for that object. So let's see how the player will interact with this. Let's go into obj player. Here we already have a collision event with the spread power up. So let's duplicate that as well. Also change its sprite to the ghost power up sprite. That's all we need for that object. So let's see how the player will interact with this. Let's go into obj player. Here we already have a collision event with the spread power up. So let's duplicate that as well. well and make it a collision event with the ghost power-up. So this is the event where the player comes in contact with a ghost power-up. So when it does that, we want the power-up variable to be set to 2 instead of 1. And then for the visual effect, we're not gonna change its color to yellow. Let's keep it white. But instead, let's make it a bit transparent by using a low alpha value. So if you collect this power up, it will be activated. The ship will become a bit transparent. So let's code what happens while this power up is active. Because this makes you invincible, all it needs to do is disable the interaction between a player and a rock. So in the player, we have a collision event with obj rock. So in this event, at the very top, let's add a condition to check if power up 2 is active. Which is our ghost power up, and in that case, let's exit out of the event. This means that if power up 2 is active, then the rest of this event, which destroys the player, is not going to run, meaning nothing is gonna happen to the player. Now we also want this power up to be spawned, and because that happens in obj rock, let's go into that object and let's open the collision event with obj bullet. Here in the choose function, we can just add it as a second option, and so it'll be spawned. But for now, just to test it, I'm gonna replace the spread power up with the ghost power up. So only that power up spawns for now. And let's go into the game and test it. In 10 seconds, I get the ghost power up. And in going to run in the choose function spread power, and when I collect it,
Okay, so we should have ghosts now instead. Okay, so yep, there's the ghost power up. Now we should be able to run through rocks and nothing happen. Until it goes away. And if it goes away while we're on a rock, we're dead. Cool.
I become a bit transparent and I can go through rocks. So with the power up tested and working, you can go back into the rock object and you can then add the spread power up as the second option in your choose function. And with that, our power up system is working, but not necessarily finished, because you can now go and add your own power ups. So if you do add any new power ups, or if you have ideas for power up for you,
Okay. Music is pretty banging. Okay. So now can we actually like export it? Ah, so we can create an installer. Packages installer. Oops. And that took very quickly. Okay, so let's minimize that. Let's just throw that to our desktop. Install shuttle 0. I agree. We don't want to start menu, we want desktop shortcut. Install. Installation complete. Next. Get created with GameMaker. So we're just going to be like settings to change our stuff. Finish. So here's your game installed then. And we've got a working executable. Oh, get the power up. What can we get on a high score? So we got to about 7,000 before. So we're getting high score now. Let's see if we can get 10,000. Nearly there. Come on. Good to get another power up. I'll do spread power up. Here we go, here we go. Ah, and then we crashed. Short of 10,000 by 400 points. Alright. So we've successfully made a first game in one night. So that'll leave us to going on to with some more tutorials next time. I think the next real basic one was like a breakout or something. What do we got? Where is it? Yeah, breakthrough. But I'll have a look before the next episode. So we'll be back next Tuesday, same time, 8 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's Brisbane GMT +10. And we'll keep working on with some more tutorials, learning how to keep making games with GameMaker. Getting ready to make our first official game. So enjoy the rest of your night, and hopefully we'll see you next time.